Hello class, and welcome to such a beautiful day. We're going to start by masking today, and it's going to be so fun. Okay, so before we begin, again, I just want to go over, this is what I want you guys to take away from today's lecture. So the takeaways from today are combining your selection methods. What's a selection method? It means that you see ants marching on your screen like that. That means that something is selected. Before I get too far, how do I deselect something? Control D. So there's lots of ways to select. There's essentially one way to deselect, Control D. Now, when I say combining selection methods, in our last lecture, you guys had exercises. Let's go back to the Chucks or Converse, whatever you call them. And you had to go through and select the shoe several different ways. You did like a lasso, magic wand, whatever it was. And today I'm going to teach you guys that you don't just have to use one. You can combine all of them and use them together to kind of help you. The other thing that we need to learn is that whether we're combining or not, we can also add and subtract from our selection. So spoiler alert, we've already done this lecture for those of you guys watching this at home. What keys do you hit on your keyboard to select or add? So let's do this. What's the selection key? It's Alt or Shift. Which one is it? Shift. Good. When you hold Shift down, what should you see on your cursor on your screen to let you know you're adding? A plus sign. Good. To subtract, what's that key? Alt, good. So hit the Alt key, and again, on your screen, it'll let you know. What will you see on your screen if you're subtracting? A minus sign, good. So when you see plus, it's not just your cursor, it means that you're adding. And when you see a minus, it means that it's subtracting. Bless you. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do right now. In addition to that, one thing that we'll also see, as many of you guys have learned, in our previous exercise, we selected, and then we masked, and then we were done. Now, is that reality? Do we just mask and are done? More often there's not. There's something that we miss or something that we need to refine. So part of today, again, is learning how to add or subtract from your mask. So there's two different things, add and subtracting from your selection, and then the other part is adding and subtracting from your mask. So with this chair right here, let me start from the beginning. If I look at my layer, I don't have anything yet. So it's going to be really important today that we pay close attention to what layer we're working on and what part of the layer. So right now, do I have a mask? No. I just have a layer called background, and I'm going to unlock this and rename this Spark series. That way, as I add more things into my files, I'm just being more and more organized. So I know that this is the Spark series chair. That's easy for me to find. These thumbnails are way too small for me to see. So I've got my Spark series chair, and I'm going to use the quick selection tool to try and grab my chair. So I'm going to hit W. And right now, am I in the correct thing for quick selection? Can you guys see on my screen? So I hit W. Am I in the quick selection wand or the magic selection wand? So Abby's saying no. If I right click, this is my quick selection tool right here. So again, you're going to be doing a lot of left and right to see what tool you're working with and where you're working with it. Okay, pretend you're crossing the street. Look both ways. Okay, that'll be my new signal to you guys. So with this, how many of you guys would start this by selecting the chair? Most of you? Okay, that's probably what I would do. So right now, if I don't see a circle around my cursor, what should I do on my keyboard so I can see how big my brush is? Good, caps lock. Can you guys see the circle around my cursor yet or no? Dang it, pretend you can. I'm so sorry. But caps lock on and off toggles it back and forth. So right now I'm at about a 30. And just as a quick test, if I come down here and select my leg, does that look like the 30's too big for the leg? You see how it kind of fell off? Yeah, that's too big. So I want to deselect. What's my shortcut? Control D. Thank you. So coming up here to the chair, I'm going to start selecting the chair. So there's two ways you can do it. You can just keep clicking and it'll add, or you can kind of hold and drag. Either one works, but there will come a point where this is too big. So to make my cursor smaller, what keys can I hit on my keyboard? Good, the brackets. So left bracket makes it smaller, right bracket makes it bigger. And now do you see that it's a better size because it's really just selecting the leg? So I grab that leg, I grab this leg, there's that one, and that one right there. Okay? So this is what I'm referring to as our selection. Now if I was in here and I accidentally selected that, looking at our shortcuts on the board, you said it, Ash. I didn't even ask it, but I saw her mouth move. I was about to ask, what? I have to hit something to subtract. So looking at the board, which key is a subtract key? Alt, yep. And I'm sorry you can't see it, but I'm holding Alt right now, and my cursor has turned to a minus. So now if I hit minus and select in here, it eventually gets it. Here we go. Okay, see how it deselected that? So now that I have this pretty much selected, how do I mask it? Yeah, yep, so you just want to do the white rectangle with the circle. Again, black and white Japanese flag. Click on it and it's masked. Right now, looking at my layers, what am I working on? Am I working on my image or the layer? Sorry, nope, the image or the mask. Yep, okay, good. I'm working on the mask. So if I wanted to erase this leg, let's say I'm photoshopping something weird back there, what color would I need to get over here? Black. Good. So black is the cloak of invisibility. So in Harry Potter, do you watch Harry Potter? Okay, so in Harry Potter, I think it's actually a dark cloak or even a black cloak he puts on. So just think black makes it invisible. So I'm going to do, if I wanted to see a preview of my mask, what key would I hit on my keyboard? Slash, good. So I hit slash so you can see a preview of it. Now, there's many ways that I can go through and add black to my mask. Give me 2 ways of applying paint color. What's the first one? Brush. Good. What's the second one? Paint bucket. Yep, so they're both B's, bucket or brush. What's the keyboard shortcut for the bucket tool? G, because it falls under the gradient family. So let me hit B for brush. So again, let's look left and right to make sure I'm okay. What command am I in? Yep, does it look like the brush is selected? And if this is so new, you can even just come and hover over here, make sure it's the brush, okay? And then I looked left, and let me look right. Am I on the right layer to start masking? Yep, I actually have my mask selected. So coming over here, nothing is happening. What's going on? What did I forget to look at? Black, yep. How do I easily toggle between black and white? X, good. So now it's black, and can you see it's actually masking? Okay. Let me go through and do this with the paint bucket. So with this one, I actually would want to use my lasso to select the leg. Because remember, this is creating a stencil for where the color goes. So even if I went to brush, is my cursor in the middle of that line right now? Or even up here? See how it's above that line? It won't let me do anything above it. It lets me do whatever I want inside, but not above. Okay, so use your stencil. And now I'm going to switch to G for gradient, or gradient bucket. And did you see I had to click it a couple times? it kind of left a ghost haze. Let me show you what it does. I don't know why it does this, but it leaves kind of an outline. Do you guys barely see that? So you could do that and even go to brush and kind of clean it up. You can keep spilling the paint bucket. Either way. Okay? So that's the second part. That's how you add or subtract from your mask. So that was subtracting. So subtracting is black. But now, do you see how I have all these white highlights on my chair? So if this chair goes in a room where it's a white background, that's not a big deal. It's going to totally blend in. But if I'm going into a room with like a blue wall, do you see how that might stick out? Okay, so now with this, let's do a check. So first check, is my layer okay? Do I have anything selected?
No.
What should be selected? My mask. Good. My mask is on. How can I preview my mask? Good. Now, if I want to get rid of the highlight, what color do I need to apply here?
Black.
And what color am I at right now? Okay. It's a quick way to toggle back and forth between the colors. X. Good. And now with my brush tool, you can do this, but okay, this is why I have a hard time with the brush tool. See how I took kind of a big chunk out of the chair right there? Okay. The other thing, to be completely honest, I used to have really bad tendinitis, so these little strokes are hard for me to do, like the click, 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 especially here. These mice are not great. That's why you guys will almost always find me using a lasso and selecting. It also makes the edge a little bit more believable because it's a little bit smoother. Let me just get this area here. So yes, I know there's areas I'm ignoring. I hit enter. See how I've got all of this selected? So this is my stencil. And now if I go to brush, I'm still on black. And I can be as messy as I want because everything's going to go in my stencil. And even right here, whoops, I didn't mean to do undo. Let me go back. I want my brush tool back. Now I'm going to do Control D. Right here, I might just need a little tiny bit more. But now, can you see the difference between this upper edge here versus down here? The cleanliness of it? So that's just where you guys can decide if you want to go through with your brush and just kind of smooth it over. Again, I have a really hard time with that. My wrist and my hands almost lock up immediately. If you feel your hands doing that, don't torture your hands and do that, okay? Just go through, use your lasso. Yeah, Cami?
Am I not showing yours, but is it supposed to change it to like a lighter pink?
Yeah, so it did. It's definitely a lighter pink now because see how here it's like white, but up here it is it's the pink mask.
Like when I brush it, it's just like a different kind of pink.
Oh, so what's going on there? So sometimes what ends up happening, let me go to the mask layer. Do you have another layer underneath it? Okay, so sometimes your mask, right now, let me see, mask options. My mask opacity is at 50%. Sorry, I did that really fast. So I right click and I go to mask options, and I don't show this often, but right now it's set to show me it at 50%. This is what it looks like at 100. So sometimes what ends up happening is if you, now my graphic card is mad. Weird. Let me do that one more time. There we go, I'm caught up. So sometimes what ends up happening is if you mask over an area more than once, it's like having paint on it over and over again. Let me see if I can emulate it. No, because mine is set to 50%, it isn't. It just means that, I don't even know how to put this, it's almost like it got extra masked, but it shouldn't change it. Okay. And then again, you just go through and get rid of the other highlights on this chair too. Okay, so that was a quick overview of this one. Now, before I leave this one, let me make that extra layer. So I think several people were getting confused between creating a new layer and then duplicating a layer. So just to create a blank layer, just click on that little piece of paper and you get a blank layer 1. Now this is my test. Is my test in the right place? No. The reason why I know that is if I go to my gradient and change this to like a blue color, if I spill the paint there, see how it's on top? So I actually want to pull this down and move it to the bottom. And again, this just helps me see the highlights, right? I think one of the biggest things that I kept seeing happening is this is where some people got confused. They started accidentally spilling the paint in here. See how you can't really see it, but it turned blue. So you should never paint on your actual layer or mask, only on the test, okay? So this one is now complete. Any questions about this one before I go on to the next one? No? Okay, let me do the other one real quick. So this chair, it's a slightly different technique. I used the magic wand tool for this one. And so with this one, the reason why the magic wand tool is nice is because I have a nice clean white background. It's easy for me to hit W, go to the magic wand, and then right click and go to color range. So from here, I wish I could just clear this out because this isn't what it looked like, but let me click on the black. So you can see that with the black, this is what the selection looks like. So make sure up here that it's at sampled colors. Don't have it be, there's no greens, there's no yellow, there's a little bit of yellow, even magentas, nothing comes up. So keep it set to sampled colors and then come click anywhere that's white. And then when you hit OK, you have just about everything that's white selected. So now from here I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to click mask, but it did the opposite of what I wanted to do. So how do I flip this? Control I, good. We want to invert our mask. So right now if I hit Control I, you can even see in the little preview, and let me turn this on. Here's the Control I. Cami, can you see here how I've got a darker pink and a lighter pink? That just has to do with when I was selecting my whites, there was just a little bit of a lighter white here. So if I go through with my brush, can you see how I can even mask this even more? So in masking, you don't have to mask something entirely. You can just kind of ghost it in a little bit. So that's what's going on right there. So when I undo this, again, the pixels are so light that you can hardly see what's going on. Let me do a test layer just to see what that looks like. And let me call this Brewer. That's my layer organization. Okay, can you see it now that there's a little bit coming through? So just watch out for that. It's really hard for me to see with just like the naked eye, but in the test I can kind of see it coming through. Okay. So I'm turning on the layer mask again, and now we're kind of back to that idea of, okay, how can we add or subtract to the section? So truthfully, this is a pretty clean mask, but do you see how right here it gets a little halo-y? It's not that bad, but can you see those white lines coming through? So even here, if I'm on my mask, if I just go to brush, do you see I can start getting rid of some of those? Even like right here, it's a little bit greeny. Now these hard white lines, if it's going up against a white background, you won't be able to notice. But see how on a blue background you can totally tell that that's been cut out of something? I can do my lasso tool again. This, I'm picking tiny little pixels. This is like working with grains of sand at this point. But I can go to my brush and get rid of that right there. Okay, so I use my lasso tool to make a stencil. I can do that down here too. I'm not going to go all the way, but there's my stencil, here's my brush, and I can kind of clean this up. How do I deselect? Control D. Good. So I really think, oh wait, let me zoom in a little bit. Do you see how much cleaner this area looks versus this one right here? It really does make a big difference when you go through and clean it up. So here's my advice to you guys. I really think you know what you're doing, but I don't think you know how to put it all together yet because it's so much. The deselecting, the adding, the subtracting, making sure you're on your mask layer versus another layer. So this was just a quick 21-minute nutshell of the entire lecture, plus some of like the inverts, and the shifts and the alts, changing the brush size, all of that stuff kind of wrapped into one. So I would ask everybody over this next week, get intuitive. Like make sure that this becomes intuitive. The point of the exercises is to help you get there. So if you are doing it and you still are struggling with, wait, I don't know what to do next, or I don't know what happened, keep redoing these exercises or go online and find other images to try and mask, okay? Like I said, I've given you guys 1, 2, 3, 4 more examples to keep working with, but if those still aren't there, then I would say try it one more time, even with something as simple as a chair. And the thing that's nice about working with the chairs, you will have my lecture right next to you. And so in YouTube, you can pause it, you can play it faster, whatever you want to do. All right? So this is the lecture that I'm going to post for today. I'm just going to keep this one up. The only thing that we really missed from the last lecture was that if you would like extra credit, I'd love to see all of you guys tomorrow at 4 up in the Interior Design Materials Lab. We're going to talk about how to join the Interior Design Club and if you want to get involved as an officer. It's going to be really informal. It should take less than an hour, but if you're on campus, I'd love to see you guys tomorrow at 4. Okay? Any questions before I post this lecture? Yep, Taylor?
So on the bluer chair,
Uh-huh.
like some of the metal is blue.
Okay.
So can you like toggle to white and
Yeah, and bring it back
brush that?
in. So like right here, are you talking about right here?
Mhm.
So that's a great question. So Taylor was noticing that on some of the areas of my chair where the highlights were so light, which essentially turned them white, what program are we in? Not AutoCAD, not Revit, Photoshop. Photoshop grabbed those two. Really, it's trying its best. So in Photoshop, we know that black makes things disappear. What color makes things reappear? White. So on my mask, what do I need to paint this? White. So right now, is my paint black or white? What key can I hit on my keyboard to easily toggle back to white? X. Good. So I'm on X. Look at my tools. Am I, oh, hang on, let me change it real quick. Okay. Am I in brush or anything that can add color?
No.
No. So I'm going to hit B for brush. There's my brush. And then look at my layer again. Am I on the right layer? Nope. I need to be on my mask. Now that I am, I can come through. That brings that back. And I can do that here and here and here. A little bit here. Oh, what happened there? My brush is just too big. So I'm going to come back to my history, back it up, and then if I go back to brush, what can I hit on my keyboard to make it smaller? Yep. If you can't see the size of your circle on your screen, what's that key? Caps lock. Yep. All right. What else? Anything else? Okay. So my what's this called? My mask preview looks a little bit weird right now because it's taking red and adding this blue, so it ends up being a little bit purple. That's what's going on there. Right? So I am going to post this. Everybody, fair warning, and I will try to remember to send a message on Canvas. If not, if you guys see Juliana tomorrow, Julianne, because I know a lot of you guys have classes with her tomorrow, at the beginning of class next week, I'm going to pick one of these chairs, maybe both of them. I might put both chairs up. I'm going to give you guys 30 minutes to mask them and then post them back to Canvas. It's going to be a little assessment quiz. Okay, exactly what we did today. So you know what's coming. It's going to be this chair and the Spark Series chair. First 30 minutes, mask it however you're comfortable, the best you can. Okay? All right.